Oh, you're going to do
Okay, I think we'll start.
Hello, my name is Shirley
Zinn.
Zinn. I've just spoken about the topic of fearless HR leadership at the IPM Convention. And the key focus areas really are: how do we ensure that we have bold and courageous leadership in this extraordinary times, plenty of challenges in the world of work today. And we live in a disruptive time. We live in a time when we are fully challenged from an economic point of view as well. And how do we as HR professionals step up and really lead and influence and shape the strategy of our businesses? So as HR professionals, we must stay close to the cusp. We must be at the table with a voice that leads and gives direction to the strategy. And over and above that, we must also be taking care of ourselves. Who looks after the HR professional? Who develops the HR professional? We need to ensure that we come to conventions like this. We build a network of people and peers who can support and assist us and provide us with tips, tools, and learnings that will enable us to really go and be the fearless HR leaders that our organizations need today. We need to take care of our overall well-being as well as HR professionals. And we need to seek out mentors and coaching well ahead of time so that we know we don't have to navigate this journey on our own, and that there are opportunities for us to be supported and enabled to be as effective and optimal as we possibly can be out there. So I want to encourage you to use these opportunities to seek out mentoring and coaching well ahead of time, to be aware that mental wellness has an impact on our organizations, and to create a culture that is inclusive and caring of people too who have mental wellness challenges. And today I just want to encourage you to step up boldly, to be courageous, to take our organizations through this difficult time in South Africa and take our organizations to the next level as fearless HR leaders. I thank you.
For application and relevance to leadership development. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, presenting Leadership and Unconscious Bias, CEO of Franklin Covey South Africa, Malini Ramsamy.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm hoping that as we get through the next few seconds, that this room will fill up a little bit more, because I think that as we think about this topic of fearless leadership, I would like to ask you to think about this for a moment. When you think about fearless leadership, what is the face that comes to mind for you? What does fearless leadership look like? Here's some inspiration.
I'm on the Greenpeace ship Esperanza in the Arctic. We are about 150 kilometers from the coast of Greenland. I'm going to board the rig myself and deliver the 50,000 names with a personal plea that Kern leaves the Arctic. For me, and for many people around the world, this is now one of the defining environmental struggles of our time. It's a fight for sanity against the madness that sees the disappearance of the Arctic ice, not as a warning, but as an opportunity to seek further profits.
Massive amounts of water coming down entry point on rig blocked by gate. Going in now.
When you recruit somebody who has a history of not behaving ethically, a history of lying, a history of stealing, a history of being caught up in corrupt deals, you place that person in position of authority. what do you expect? Because they're more likely to continue with that crooked way. But worse, if anybody tries to stand in their way, they may then try to remove that person from their position, as we've seen with state capture.
We have become quite obsessional about competition in our culture, our modern culture. We set high store by success. The most awful thing to happen to anybody is to fail. And so we worship in the temple of cutthroat competition. We must succeed. And so what do? Some cook the books because, it's like the pressure is so great, so that stomach ulcers become status symbols. We have seen to ask, is it profitable? God is saying, we actually ought to have been asking, is it right?
There is a real possibility if we review our decision and accept the restriction for rugby as our symbol, we will unite the country. And that has victory over the All Blacks will make their achievement even more significant. That the whole country, black and white, was behind us. And they must go to the field fully motivated, knowing that they will bring glory to South Africa.
That occasion where Mr. Mandela came out with the number 6 rugby jersey, with Francois, the captain, did so much towards racial reconciliation in this country.
By proclaiming the message of one team, one country, rugby in South Africa, once a symbol of division and exclusion, had indeed crossed the threshold to a new era of a united and reconciled nation.
I get goosebumps to this day when I think about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, small acts of heroism. So when you think about fearless leaders, we're thinking about you and I. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another IPM conference. This year, unlike others, requires of you to be different. It requires of you to search inside for a kind of courage that perhaps you have not gone to before. We are saying that leadership is a choice. It is not a position. Leadership is not for the faint-hearted. Fearless leadership is not for the faint-hearted. It is not for those who will take the safe road. It is not for those that does not question. It is not for those who are not curious, courageous, and brave. Earlier on, we heard surely Professor Zinn talking about the fact that as HR professionals, you can no longer stand on the sideline and be bullied because another agenda is at play. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come to a conference of this nature, year on year, listening to all of the great wisdom that we have multitude of books written about, we go out with a sense of excitement. Wow, that was a great conference. And then we take all of those wonderful literature and we put it into our top drawer and we go back to business as usual. We go back to business as usual. As we look around us, our institutions are changing. There's corporate greed, all of us, amongst all of us. Indeed, leadership greed. Profits at any cost, an unknown that is coming at us, thick and fast. I ask you, with tears in my eyes, will you be prepared to stand against institutions of greed, biasness? Stand up for your own integrity so that you do not compromise who you are. And yes, I know that perhaps you may be thinking, but my job is on the line. And yes, we do have that to fulfill. We have a physical need. We have the house to pay and the car to pay and the school, the kids to send to school. At what cost? Look around you. Project yourself 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. What will this country, your organization, your home, your children, you look like if we succumb to the kind of changes that's going on around you? The world is changing. And often, as we think about what is going on, we come to learn that there is a game at play. Many organizations are not quite sure what game they play in. You see, there is the finite game and the infinite game. The finite game is marred by set of rules, by known players, by set objectives. It is about a win for one. It is about individualism. There's nothing wrong with the finite game. The world that we are moving into requires participation in an infinite game. An infinite game is a game that you play for perpetuation. It is about staying in the game. Whilst a finite game has a definite winner and a loser, an infinite game is about playing together for more, for bigger. It is with players that are both known and unknown. It is both flexible and changeable. It perpetuates. It is an understanding that danger is real. There's a very real chance that your business can close tomorrow. But fear is not. Danger is not in your control. Fear is. In the game of playing an infinite game requires you to move away from the command and controlling style into an inspire and release. Commanding and controlling is old. It's irrelevant. it is no longer have a place in our world. There is a requirement for us to embrace a new kind of leader. A fearless leader comes with a very defined DNA. They have a near perfect balance of character and competence. They are very, very clear on who they are, will not allow for their integrity to be compromised at any cost. They are vulnerable. They know that people follow humans. They do not follow flawless icons. And it's all right. This type of leader knows that he does not have to be the brightest mind in the room. They also know that if they do have that mindset of being the cleverest person in the room, they are in the wrong room. This leader unleashes potential, grow others. The DNA of this person also is very clear on all the things they do, what they do, the actions they take. They look at the development of others. They look at how do we expand skill sets. They look at what results are we getting at. And results may not necessarily be translated into financial terms. But what is that legacy that we have left? What will I be known for? And finally, the DNA of this fearless leader comes down to a critical piece around how they think. How they think when they look at you and I. They engage people as whole people, recognizing that in order for you to have people volunteer their finest efforts towards the highest priority of an organization, you need to engage them as whole people. They're also those people that know that they have to surround themselves with a multiple of skill sets. They know that they are not the primary owner of all of the skill sets and competencies that are required to get a specific result. This leader surrounds themselves with others that are different to them, that come with a different set of skill set. You see, when we think about leadership, when we think about what is it that drives us, as human beings, we all have a set of bias. So let me say it differently. If you are not biased, then you are not human. Being biased is inherently human. So when you have a leader that engages with that which looks like him, looks the same, feels the same, speaks the same, we're saying, how then do we move from that? How do we move away from an inherent bias? So listen, the reality is that our brain is wired to react. Yeah? Our brain is wired to react. So whenever we experience something that's different, that's unlike us, there's a little thing in your brain called the amygdala. It is all your emotional processing goes there. It sends a message to your hypothalamus. This is your communication center. It tells the hypothalamus, Oh, you need to be really, really scared. Run away, do something. I cannot trust this person. And in that moment, when we do that, we are making decisions about the person in front of us in that moment. And the brain does that because it needs to create shortcuts. Remember that at any given point in time, our brain has 11 million bits of information coming at it all the time. We can only process 40 of those. We can only process 40. So what does the brain do? We create heuristics. A heuristic is a shortcut. It is defined by a set of categories based on our experience, based on our prejudgments. And so it's not a bad thing to have heuristics. It helps us. It helps us human beings to make decisions as opposed to spending lots of energy and time on a particular aspect we can get through quickly by using our heuristics. However, the danger is that these heuristics gets us into what we call a cognitive trap, a cognitive bias. And there is where the problem is because often it is inaccurate. It stifles learning. It stifles organizations. And all good policies go out the window because there is a human that administers these processes, these policies. And so when you're thinking about how do we change and we continually do the same thing, we are continually reacting based on our bias. So ladies and gentlemen, the number one contributor to homogeneous work environments, sameness thinking, a disabler of diversity, inclusion, and belonging, the enemy of innovation and engagement is unconscious bias. We know very many organizations that are filled with echo chambers. Why? Because I have to go up to my boss and tell him how brilliant he is and agree with everything that he says because I'm too scared to confront that, yeah? So we have an organization, we have echo chambers. It takes a very special kind of leader to recognize that in order to grow, in order to be the best that we can be, there is a requirement that we need to engage different minds, different thinking opportunities. It's a leader that is not afraid to be vulnerable. It is a leader who is not afraid to admit his shortcomings. When we think about all of the organizations and all of the work that gets done around diversity and inclusion, some of the greatest research is telling us that in organizations that have the top 25% on gender and racial diversity are more likely to outperform in relation to their peers. The bottom 25% underperform. So there is a business case as to why becoming aware of your bias is critical as we aim to grow our businesses, as we aim to interact more meaningfully with each other at every level in the organization. We require a completely new skill set, a skill set that makes us aware of the bias that we walk around with. Understanding our bias is probably the very first thing that we need to do. Being aware of it, identifying it. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot sit here and say, I am not biased. You are, as am I. The awareness thereof is what helps us transition and make a difference in the space that we're in. How do we do that? How do we move into this space of recognizing our unconscious bias? When you think about how you operate in the organization, if you make people feel valued, included, appreciated, you really are operating in the high performance zone. When we are in the space where we kind of just tolerate, ignore, we are moving more closer towards the limiting zone, limiting people's potential. And heaven forbid that you're in the space of the damaging zone where you are speaking about abuse, using derogatory terms, just sidelining people. That's the damaging zone. How often do you know of individuals that are marginalized in your organization? That time after time, they get looked over for promotion. That regardless of how hard they work, there are certain things, they are not the right religion, not the right gender, not the right ethnicity, not the right color, not the right education level, did not get my MBA from that institution, I did not get. Listen, I have that in my organization. When we hire, we look to hire people with a minimum of an honors degree. That is a bias. And as I've been going through this content, I realized, geez, I didn't realize that I may be marginalizing great individuals that do great work and have had 30 years experience, but they may not have honors degree. And I took a step back. Because as I went through this, I realized that I need to be able to identify my bias. And part of this process of the unconscious is a recognition that we are, and we cannot say, well, so what? It makes me human. We're saying, do something about it. Here's a model that we can use. There are 3 pieces to this model. The very first one is identifying your bias. It is based on the principle of self-awareness. The next piece is cultivating connection. It is based on the principle of openness. And the last one, choosing courage, based on the principle of growth. What are the frameworks, your frame of mind, as you move inside of this? So when you are at the very first one, identifying your bias, your immediate frame of reference is, I am not biased, I view things objectively. Moving away to identifying is, bias exists in everyone, including me. I actively think about how bias is at play in the choices I make every day. Are we prepared to do that? Don't answer me. Think about it. The second piece, cultivating connection based on the principle of openness. What is it that we want to reframe? Moving away from, if I understand my bias, I can fix them on my own. It's not about fixing them, ladies and gentlemen. It's about reframing this idea of how do I connect and learn your story. It is only when I cultivate meaningful connections can I see past bias and value the people around me. Here's what I'd like for you to do. Do you all have some paper? Some paper. I'd like for you to list 10 people from your professional network that you choose to interact with. Just list them. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to do that. List 10 people from your professional network that you choose to interact with. These are the people you most frequently connect with, not who you think you should connect with. The people you most frequently connect with. Just make the list. We done? Ten people that you most frequently interact with in your professional network. Are we good? Show of hands. You good? Still busy? Okay. Here's what I'd like you to do. As you think about that list that you have, I'd like for you to answer some of this. Who do you go for professional advice? Who comes to you? Who do you go to for your mentoring or coaching, or who comes to you? Who would you go to for help for a project or intervention or whatever? I'd like for you to tick them against these kind of criteria. Are they in the same age group or different to you? Same color or different to you? Same education level or different to you? Same expertise or different to you? And so on and so forth. Family status, gender, national origin, personality, physical abilities, physical appearance, political views, race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status. A quick check. My guess is that most of you ticked same. My guess is that most of you ticked same. Sameness. And it's our safety net. It helps us feel safe in relationships that we know, people that look the same, feel the same. It's the old adage, oh, you're just like me. You are just like me translates into I like you. I will therefore do business with you because I like you. That's the reality of the landscape within which we find ourselves. So if we want to be fearless, if we want to transform, let's look again. Perhaps with a microscope, if needs be. When we think about the last piece, choose courage. It is built on the principle of growth. Growth for the many. It moves from the mindset of if I confront bias, it will just create more division. And you kind of avoid the subject like the plague. Versus when I effectively confront bias, I create a space where we are all valued and are able to contribute our best. We should be going towards creating an environment where people can say, earnestly, compellingly, with absolute confidence, I feel like a valued member of a winning team doing meaningful work in an environment of trust. Can we say that? As leaders in this organization, in various organizations, can your people say that? Can your people say, I feel like a valued member of a winning team doing meaningful work in an environment of trust? And it is only when we look at all that we have in front of us that we can truly embrace what diversity, inclusion, and belonging really means. I think that the time for talking about it is over. It requires action. Here's a little video for some inspiration on this idea.
Each day we have a chance to connect with other people. And when we do, we assign an identity to each person we meet. We put people in groups that help us define the world around us, or the world we think is around us. Some groups are helpful to us. Others we think deserve respect. Some we deem average. Some are to be avoided. Some are wise, inexperienced. There are those we idolize and those we ignore. Groups that separate us from them.
Today I'm going to ask you some general questions. They may seem funny, random, serious, or deeply personal. Please be brave, answer honestly. Who in this room is the life of the party? Who is adopted?
But what happens when we make connections and groups begin to dissolve? There are those who believe in life after death. Those who are immigrants. Those who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. The lonely. Those who love fast food. Those who love science fiction movies. Those who have been bullied. And we who have bullied others. The lucky ones who are madly in love. lost a child. Those who have overcome addiction. And those who acknowledge the courage of others. Those who have found peace. And others who have saved lives. And then there's everyone who experiences this together. Maybe there's more that connects us than we think. Because in the end, there is only us.
Is it a bad thing that we do that? Here's our reality. Our reality is that we are caught up in the daily whirlwind. And in that daily whirlwind, we have to make a decision in that moment. Our brain is telling us we've got to be quick. We've got to make the most high-valued decision in the moment. It's got to be focused, and it's got to have the highest energy. That's what is coming at us. And then we fall into this trap because we've got information overload, feelings over facts, and this need for speed. And as we do that, we apply our biases. Choose courage. Choose to be curious about the people around you. Be cautious about how we're engaging. Are we damaging people by intentionally or unintentionally projecting our bias to them? Let's be aware of that. Before I close with one final inspirational video, I just want to tell you 3 slides around who Franklin Covey is. Many of you may know Franklin Covey as the 7 Habits people, yeah? Who's familiar with Franklin Covey? Wow, that's quite a few of you. So Franklin Covey is a performance improvement company. The work that we do is around looking at behaviors that changes the way organizations get results. Please visit our stand, have a conversation with the people that are there, and they can tell you about some of the work that we are doing across the globe and locally on unconscious bias. It will be really interesting to get your view as well. So as I just want to leave you with one last thought. Whenever I listen to Nelson Mandela, regardless, I feel that there's this bumps on my skin that I cannot explain. I get all welled up, and I also cannot explain, but there's just something about his messaging that is so relevant today in where we find ourselves as a nation. All of the stories that has been hitting the media of late. And I think that this idea around unconscious biasness could not have come sooner. I really hope that you enjoy this last closing video clip.
The first thing is to be honest with yourself. You can never have an impact on society if you have not changed yourself. And one of the most important weapons in changing yourself is to recognize that peace, people everywhere in the world want peace.
If in these later years of a life lived in pursuit of equality, we can at last look upon our own country as one in which citizens, regardless of race, gender or creed, share equal political rights and opportunities for development, We do so with great gratitude towards the millions upon millions all around the world who materially and morally supported our struggle for freedom and justice.
I was in the company of great men indeed. Some of them more qualified, more talented than I am. And to sit down with them, to exchange views, was one of the most revealing experiences I had. To sit down with those men and to exchange views, it enriched your own life. It fortified your morality. It gave you courage to do better than your best.
Anybody who changes his principles depending on whom he is dealing, that is not a man who can lead a nation.
You have a limited time to stay on earth. You must try and use that period for the purpose of transforming your country into what you desire it to be: a democratic, non-racial, non-sexist country. Humility is one of the most important qualities which you must have, because if you are humble, if you make people realize that you are no threat to them, then people will embrace you. They will listen to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marlene. Won't you come up with me? Just a few questions from the audience and some statements. You can hold the mic in your hand, it's fine. We can just go through some of them. A question from Christopher Sekobela. How do you practice fearless leadership in a family-owned business, a situation where leadership of the organization is based on heredity?
That's a very difficult question, especially to me, because I run a family business.
Well, there we go.
and I think that in the moment, as a family-led business, you have this thinking that you've got shareholder value, so you're holding two hats. You've got to run the business, and you've got to make sure that this money is working for you. So being real in the moment around what is the kind of risks you are willing to take. And that's what fearless leadership is about, is knowing the risk and being okay that some risks are necessary for the growth of that business, and others you need to be cautious on.
And then this next question then should also make a bit of sense. From Maurice Mangani. Did state capture occur in South Africa because of fearful leadership?
That's a setup question.
That's why I'm asking it. Well, the audience is asking.
What does the audience think?
No? There was no fearless leadership. That's why state capture occurred. Well, there we go. Is that okay? Yeah? Okay, agreed. What's your experience helping women navigate leadership roles? This is from Zandile Kubeka.
So Zandile, wherever you are, I'm finding it more and more difficult to understand why we're separating women in leadership and leadership. Leadership is leadership. Take the baton and be brave. When you hold that title, I'm a woman in leadership, it automatically puts you on the back foot, because then in yourself, you're giving yourself a bias. You are no different. You can do anything a man can do, as he can do anything you can do. So that whole notion of women in leadership, leadership is leadership. Take the baton.
Question. Tabo Saku is asking you a question. Hi, Malini. Would you agree with me that if we were all fearless leaders, half of the participants in the room would not be in the positions they hold today? Would you agree with me that if we were all fearless leaders, half of the participants in the room would not be in the position they hold today?
I think that you would not be in this room only for one reason, because you would have transcended to a level that even you could not even imagine. You allow certain positions of leadership to keep you here. What is required is a different thinking. Leadership is not a position. It's a choice. It is the things that we do in the moment that moves us and grows us beyond a position. So perhaps half of you would not have been in this room because you would have been somewhere else making big impact.
There we go. And applause needed. Just 2 statements from Anonymous. Great way of looking at bias. I always thought it's something we should rather do away with. I'm enlightened. Thanks, Malini. Another Anonymous. The presentation is encouraging us to do an introspection and leave behind bad leadership traits and be better and fearless leaders. Thank you guys for engaging. Once again, thank you, Malini. Thank you for your questions. Thank you. And then just on behalf of IPM board and management, a small gift for you to take home. Thank you very, very much. One more round of applause as she takes her seat. Thank you. Okay, yeah. We've just, for those people who have thrown in a business card at the Media 24, one of the IPM sponsors, a little bowl, we have the winner. Can you hold that for me? Sorry, I don't want to hold that. It's too much. What's that? A wine opener. It's a Carol Boyce wine cooler with lots of beautiful. I'm from Cape Town. I should know what good wine coolers are. And then there is a memory stick in here, a little diary book, all sorts of, lots of nice things. I'm just interested in the wine, to be honest. The wine cooler. So there is a winner. They've already drawn the winner. And I actually know this winner quite well because he's at IPM every year. And it is Mr. Emmanuel Kosa from Correctional Services, Republic of South Africa. He is the Deputy Commissioner of Human Resource Management. My friend Emmanuel, you keep winning prizes every year by IPM. This is bias, this, man. Enjoy. He's always in Cape Town, actually, so he knows the wine there fairly well. Right. We're going to have a little bit of a dynamic duo that's going to come to the front now. And I'm going to introduce them sort of dually. So I'm going to do 2 very short edited bios and then we'll clap for them as they come up. And some of you might know them fairly well. So the topic that we're going to deal with now is mind and body, personal brand wellness intelligence, the power of a brain and body connection. Quite a mindful, but it's just basically talking about our wellness. So the speaker that's coming up is also known as Slim. So Slim means slim, and then in our Cape Town language and in Joburg as well, it means you're clever. You're slim. But in this case, it's the bodily one. She completed her personal training qualification at the International Fitness Academy while simultaneously doing an internship at Zenzele Fitness Group and worked her way to being the company's first 20-year-old female corporate gym manager. Her brand Slimfit was born after she overcame personal challenges. Slimfit now serves as a tool to empower women through health, fitness, and self-love. Women's Health South Africa chose her as one of their top 12 next fitness stars for 2019. The speaker that will join her, and I'll mention her name now, is a brain and brand author. And he'll be sharing the topic with her today. He's the author of 4 brand leadership books, 1 leadership memoir, and consults and speaks on the science of human and brand behavior. His research and focus is based on 3 influence pillars: brain potential, behavioral science, and brand influence. His research is particularly influential in the following professional leadership domains: executive leadership, brand influence, and gender equality. His clients are those who seek to influence and expand themselves, their organizations, and society. He's passionate about mentoring sport and art. I am first going to call to the stage our wellness professional that's been keeping us fit and strong every morning and on stage, Chantal Dietrich, qualified personal trainer and dynamic well-being coach. You guys can do better than that.
Thank you for welcoming me back onto the stage. So first things first, I'm going to get my winners of the 4 tickets to the FIBO Fitness Festival happening at the Dome this weekend. These are 4 people who came to the fitness classes in the morning. So if you are any one of those 4 people, please quickly run up to the front to come and get these tickets from me. If you are in the room, quickly. Show everybody how fit you are. Let's run. Please give them a round of applause, everyone. Thank you. And just on that note, I'm giving away 2 more tomorrow morning at the fitness session, so please come through and join us. Well done. Now, we've engaged before. I've been on the stage twice, so you know my face. And you know that with me comes a bit of activity, right? So I need everybody up. Let's go. Everyone up. I'm glad I see some people stretching already. You know what's happening now. All right. So I need you all to relax. Just relax. Hands by your side. You can close your eyes if you want to. Taking a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Again, feel what's happening to your body. In and out. One last time. In and out. Now watch me. I want you to drop your chin down and you're swaying your head from side to side. Nice and slow. Feel all those knots in your neck. Feel what's happening to your body. Just be present. Don't forget your breathing. Side to side. 2 more. Last one. Bring your head back up. We're going to take it back. Side to side. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now, shoulders rolling forward. Big circles with those shoulders. Feel the knots. I know they're there. You've been sitting the entire day, not moving. I'm sure there's lactic acid buildup. Rolling it forward. For 2 and 1, let's take it back, opening up the chest. Breathe in, out. Feel it. Last 2. Last 1. Very nice. Shake it off. How are we feeling? Good. Right, you can take your seats. You can take your seats. Well done. Now, as I mentioned, we've engaged before, but you don't really know much about me, right? You just know I am the wellness person. And you know that I work with Mr. Timothy Maurice. And as you heard Ezra mentioned, everybody calls me Slim. That is my industry name. And before I found wellness, before I embarked on my wellness journey, I wasn't what you see right now. I wasn't like this. My wellness levels were low. I was unfit, unhealthy, had low self-esteem, literally no confidence. And I thought I actually had no purpose. I didn't know what my purpose was. Now, day one, you heard all about purpose, right? You heard all about having vision. I had none. And it's crazy because I wasn't investing in what Timothy and I call wellness intelligence. I wasn't investing in my personal wellness intelligence. But ever since I took the time to invest, working on my mindset, working on mindfulness, exactly what we did right now, being present in my body, working on my nutritional habits, working on exercise, even if it's 5 minutes a day, just moving, getting movement in, even if it's a walk, and resting. All of these factors are so important. And within the corporate space, we need to incorporate these things, not just within our personal lives, but in our companies as well, because employee wellness is important. Employee wellness plays a direct role in productivity within the workplace. And bringing it back to me, once I invested in those 5 things, in my wellness intelligence, and everything that Tim will tell you about now, I'm a changed person. I look healthier, I feel more energized. I mean, you guys could see my energy. I can literally jump and do cartwheels up and down this room. And it all started by me just taking time to invest in my wellness intelligence. Now, speaking of Timothy, I'd like to welcome him up. Please give him a round of applause. And that's all from me for now. Thanks, Tim.
Grab someone by the hand quickly. Just grab someone's hand. Now, while you're holding their hand, I want you to just look at them. Try to look at them. If you're holding 2 hands, look at both of them quickly. Look at them. Okay. I want you to hear this. I want you to hear this very clearly. The person you just looked at, their singular goal when it comes to human behavior is to unconsciously eat you. Now, guys, stay with me. You guys can let go of hands. You can let go of the hand now. You can let go. Now, I don't have much time. I'm gonna lock in quickly. I don't have much time, but I'm gonna lock in quickly about why it is your colleagues want to eat you. Now, part of my goal is to make you more tasty. Part of my explicit goal is to talk to you about the neuroscience of why the brain translates your values into nutrition. Now, as we go through this conversation, we're going to explore the sheer power of your brain and how it will fundamentally impact how you're received, everything that we've just been exploring about unconscious biases. But my singular goal is to elevate the value of your taste, and I'm so grateful to be here. Are you guys enjoying this conference? Let's give all the previous speakers a big round of applause, please. Now, I just want to give away, I've got a new book out called Fueling Futures that just hit shelves in July. I want to give away a quick copy to someone who is going to join the fitness session tomorrow morning. I saw your hand first. Come on up, sir. Come up, sir. Now, Chantel, you got to make sure he's there. If he's not there, I want this book back. Not
Timothy, sorry.
I'm signing for you. Yeah.
Tim, can I just stop you quickly?
Yes.
So we'll all be there to see if he's there.
Okay, awesome.
All right.
Good stuff. So this conversation has been overwhelming to me for the past 6 or so years. I went back to school to study neuroscience, and I've been gripped with the very idea, what are the chemicals that drive our human behavior? So I'm going to pick up where Chantel sort of left off around the role of the body and the health and go to the brain, if you don't mind. I became fascinated by the brain growing up with a crazy family. I've got a family that's bizarre and really, I love my family, but they're really weird. Anybody else come from a crazy family? Anybody else? There's a few of you. Let me just tell you quickly how crazy my family is and the sheer power of stories as it relates to the brain. Before I do that, just quickly, how many of you are married? How many married people do we have here? Okay, I've got a test of hands. How many of you are happily married? Okay, awesome. Where are the single ladies? All the single ladies? All the single ladies, put your hands up. Oh, wow. Okay. But I just want to make sure I'm clear. I just need to make sure I'm clear. I saw a few hands where you look like you were not very sure. If you're all the way single, like it's dry, it's bad, like there's no DMs, oh, okay, over here. That's different levels of single, right? Let me go back to my family quickly. So I've got an uncle who is a mega church pastor. You know those, so I grew up in the States. I came to South Africa just about 10 years ago, and I traveled between the two quite a bit. And I love my family. When I go home, I got an uncle who's a mega church pastor. He's one of those, yeah, well, oh Lord. I've got one of those. Can I get amen? And then the uncle that came right after him, he injured his amygdala, the emotional region of the brain, when he was playing drums in a band. They were on a parade. He was on the top of a float. And he spent most of his life in prison after that injury. And then the uncle that comes after them is a federal judge. Same family, growing up on the same farm, the same parents. What happened? What happened in their brains that made them fundamentally different? Is there something that they weren't aware of that was impacting their journey as a leader and a potential leader? What happened? Let me give you a little bit of a hint as we really open up the core of this conversation. I'm going to give you their names, and then you tell me who is who. James, Joe, Billy Jack. Which one ended up in prison? Billy Jack, yes. Now, names have power. Names have extraordinary power. The book of James, he became a pastor. Joe has legal connotations. What's interesting to me is that they had no idea that these subtle influences were impacting them. Names influence our behavior at a very deep subliminal level. Let me give you an example. There was a study done on Hurricane Katrina, and they wanted to see who gave the most to help out the victims of Hurricane Katrina. They wanted to know who were the people. So they did a thorough analysis to look at who was giving the most. Katrina, the name Katrina starts with K. Turns out the people who gave the most had names that started with K as well. Why? Because we are drawn to our names. But let me go a little bit deeper. Why are we drawn to our names? We're drawn to our names because it feels familiar. It feels similar, which means that the anxiety regions of the brain calm down when we feel like we're in a safe place, what I loved about the previous presentation was that coming out of your unconscious biases requires an act of courage, because sameness is neurologically attractive. Sameness is attractive because if someone looks like you and they sound like you, you're drawn to it. In fact, it requires less energy if people look like you. Let me give you an example. I remember the day when my ex broke up with me. Anybody ever been broken up with? Anybody ever been? Anybody, oh, you've been through this before? We were at a wedding. This was a cold thing now that I think about it. We were at a wedding, and it was in Swaziland. And we were at this wedding, and the wedding was going really well. But I kept asking her to translate what was happening. After the 8th time, I think she was like, I have no more English for you. I've run out of... I can't trace it back to that moment, but I think that was the moment. Because in her mind, if I can just get somebody next to me who speaks the same language, I won't have to expend cognitive energy. Now follow this closely. The cognitive reserves needed in that moment made me less attractive. Now, if I can create a compelling enough story to inspire people to want to invest energy, then people will want to get out of sameness into a conversation with you. Now let's go into the power of stories. It's gripping just how much stories move us. I want to show you a photo of some friends, some people I've met over the years, and how similar we all are. Now, some of these photos are just photos where I just kind of slipped in, took a photo, and left. They have no idea who I am. If you were to ask them, you know when you just get lucky? I mean, the photo with Bill Clinton and Desmond Tutu, it was at an annual Nelson Mandela lecture. And I can't make this up. I was looking for the bathroom, and I just started opening doors, and I couldn't find the bathroom. And I opened the door, and I found Desmond Tutu and Bill Clinton. And because the way I was dressed that day, I had on a power tie, they thought I was supposed to be in the room. So they grabbed me, and they said, "You want to take a photo?" Guys, they have no idea who I am. Not a single clue. Now, but some of these people I've actually had a real conversation with, like Richard Branson. Richard Branson, as you know, has dyslexia. And one of the most extraordinary things about Richard Branson is that he told himself that his dyslexia is a strength. So he reframed the story in his brain. And what that does is it creates unconscious neural networks. It creates networks that promote what you want. So the question really is, in any human behavioral design, what you want to get out of your life starts with the story that you tell yourself. Because the same way James was impacting my uncle to think about the Bible without him realizing it, because every single day my uncle was called James. So it was triggering in him. By the way, my parents changed my name on day 2. This is a true story. I can't make this up. For 2 days of my life, my name was Kevin. Now, only recently did I study the name Kevin and realize why they changed it. Because Kevin literally means handsome. So they had to change it. It's a true story. I can't make this stuff up. But I want to share a quick story about the story of Oprah. There were about 7 of us in the room. I'm not that big of a fan of Oprah. I have deep respect for her. This was 2008. I have deep respect for her, but I'm not one of those fanatics about celebrities. So when she walked, when they told her we would get a chance to meet her, I was in a situation where I was publishing my second book, Personovation. So I wanted to meet her because I wanted to talk more about my book. And I thought if there was only 7 of us, I would get a moment to have this conversation. So she was at the Sandton Convention Center. I had just moved to South Africa, and this was a big moment. They gave us a countdown. Her team said, she's coming in 30 minutes. Get ready. Now, when they got down to about 15 minutes, there was tension in the room. You know when people are giving the countdown. When it got down to 3 minutes, one of the girls starts shaking and just vibrating. And then when Oprah comes in the room, she's like, hello, does the whole Oprah thing. The girl walks over, touches her on the shoulder, and faints. Why? Why did she faint? Because the story aligned to her higher values. Turns out that this girl had also been raped when she was a young child. And it was Oprah's story of having overcome that aligned to her higher values, that so much so that her unconscious mind, there was so much built up assimilation, just like the people attracted to Katrina, just like the people attracted to James. Stories create alignment and impact. How much do you know about the stories of the people you work with? If someone is a Hindu, do you know what they celebrate? If you're a Hindu, do you know what Christian and the cross really means? If you are from KZN and you are Zulu, do you know what Afrikaans women went through in concentration camps? If you are Afrikaans, do you know what was happening in the Eastern Cape with the Xhosa tribes? I'm always interested in just how little we know about each other's story and how that impacts how we feel about each other. If I've had any success at all in this country, it's because I've taken time to study the ecological forces, all of the inputs in every culture I come across. Because if I don't know what's moving people at their core level, I have no way to engage. If I don't know, how am I going to override my unconscious biases if I don't know what's the simple things that cause people's chemical explosion like dopamine, the bonding chemicals like oxytocin that cause us to connect? I would suggest over the next few weeks, you do a thorough analysis of your colleagues that you're struggling with and ask yourself, is it because I just don't know enough about them? And I'm going to unpack in the final 23 minutes that I have how to be able to go into the deeper unconscious to trigger the type of bonding chemicals to connect using the power of stories. I just want to go quickly. What are you guys afraid of? On this list, there's a lot of black people here. So I put here dogs and swimming. How many black people are afraid of dogs? Raise your hand. Okay, let me ask a different question. How many black people can swim? Raise your hand. Okay, 5%. By the way, I can't swim. I'm stereotypical black. How many of you are afraid of heights? Okay. Now, we're talking about fearless at this conference. Let's talk about how stories impact fearlessness and being fearful and fear and attacking this. How does story impact this? I have to tell you that growing up as a kid in North Carolina before we moved to New York, we had those dogs that you tie up in the back that we were all afraid of. And so I had this just horrifying relationship with dogs, even the little small ones. Is there anybody guys, we're family, right? Is there anybody that will admit you're afraid of the little small ones? Okay. Grown man, right? Afraid of a little small dog. I was the same. I see a little dog. I couldn't understand why white people were so excited about dogs. You know, when the dog is jumping on you and they're smiling at you, you're like, why is this dog jumping on me? So I couldn't understand this. And I had a partner who begged me for a dog for 2 years. And in my head, I'm like, no, first of all, I think we travel too much. But also, I don't want want a dog running around the house. And one day I came home from a trip, and as I'm about to open the door, I hear a dog barking. My heart drops because I know what just happened. I open the door, and she's sitting there with this dog and her shady friend that inspired her to do this. You know those shady friends. Like, girl, get yourself a dog. He's always traveling. So I literally walk in the house, and there's a dog. And this dog is looking at me like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, I don't like dogs. So I go to my room, and in my head, I'm furious, but I stay calm. The first weekend, we have this dog. The dog gets sick. She wakes me up at 3 o'clock in the morning and said, we need to take this dog to the hospital or to the vet. I'm like, what? First of all, is there such thing as a 3 a.m.? What's going on? So anyway, we go and we get there, and then they tell us that the dog hadn't been dewormed. So she and her shady friend went and bought the dog that weren't dewormed. So now I'm upset, but I'm like, okay, it's fine. So we get back, and then she has to travel the next week. And now I'm stuck with this dog. And this dog is looking at me like, can't you see I'm sick? And I'm looking at the dog like, I genuinely have no idea what to do with you. I literally have no idea. Anyway, after like day 3, the dog is still starting to feel a little bit better, and we start going for runs, and we start going for long walks, and I start to find myself becoming connected with this dog. And you've seen the photo a little bit here. Let me just show you. So I became really close to this dog, to a point where I would allow this dog on my bed. Now, in my head, I've overcome this fear of dog by force. I want you to hear this. It was the neurological patterns that created the story and the picture. I want you to hear this very clearly. Please write down this term, patternicity. Pattern, I-C-I-T-Y. Just like any pattern, like a clothing pattern, and then I-C-I-T-Y. Patternicity. Patterns produce pictures, and these pictures form the stories. One of the ways to move forward and connect with people is you need new patterns. There is no way for me to overcome that fear until I created new pictures, which are undergirded by patterns. Now, this is a photo that was taken at a friend of mine's house. I had avoided this friend's house for 4 years. This is my friend Lydia. Lydia works at E&S law firm. She's a top power lawyer. I love my friend to death, but I would not go to her house because of these 2 dogs. How many of you would avoid going to her house with these 2 dogs? So I'm not alone, right? And one day, after having my little dog, my little Pomeranian, I decided I'm going to overcome my fear. And I go to her house, and I felt so at ease. To a point we did a whole photo where these dogs were jumping on me, and I was completely relaxed. What happened was, when there was new patterns, there was different chemicals and networks built in my brain to allow the control of the fear. Nothing changes until the chemicals change. We can talk all night. We can come to this conference for 6 months straight, but until there are new patterns that produce new chemicals, nothing changes. Now let me get to some of the architecture of the brain let me simplify this so that we can get some real answers into the process of how to move forward when it comes to building your brand and telling new stories. Please write down for me System 1. System 1 is the fast side of the brain. System 1. This model is a model from Daniel Kahneman, who is a Nobel Prize behavioral psychologist, economist, who has framed this in an extraordinary way, in a very simple way to understand how the brain works. System 1 is the side of the brain where you don't have to spend any energy. I want you to grab the water bottle on your table and lift it up for me. Just grab the water bottle and lift it up. Now, I want you to imagine inside of this water bottle is your brain energy called cognitive load. The load of your cognition is inside of this bottle. Now, you can sit the bottle down. Where is your energy? Is it still full? Is it halfway? Is it close to empty? Just look at your bottle quickly. Where is it? It's full. Now, what's been happening throughout the day is that you've been presented with Shirley's talk, with all of these extraordinary talk, and you've been spending energy. So every single time you have to spend energy, it's like pouring out a little bit more water. What the brain wants to do is keep the bottle full. Say full. The brain wants to keep the bottle full because it doesn't know when you're going to need it. So it's constantly trying to preserve energy. This is why we don't get out of our same networks and we stay in sameness, because we're trying to preserve energy. You're trying to keep the top on. So in system 1, which is the fast side of the brain, it puts formulas in that side of the brain so that you don't have to take the top off. So if I say to you what's 5 plus 5, you don't have to take the top off. The answer pops up. If I say 10 plus 10, you keep the top on. If I say you plus your partner's name equals, if I say you plus your partner, the answer pops up. Loyalty, committed, marriage. Or some of you, it could be, it's complicated. But the point is, there's something that pops up in the formula. Now, if I say to you, let's go to system 2. System 2 is the slow side of the brain. Please write this down. I need to move quickly. I've got about 11 minutes. Quick, I need to move quickly. System 2 is the slow side of the brain. It's the side of the brain where you have to put in energy. No one wants to go to system 2. No one wants to pop the top and pour out any energy. No one. Unless there's a good enough reason. Please write this down. System 2. In system 2, we only go to system 2 if it aligns with my values. No one wants to go to system 2 unless it promotes my values and I am inspired deeply. If I say to you what's 17 times 33, if I don't give you a good enough reason, you're not going to figure it out. That's a system 2 exercise. If I say I'm going to give you a book, maybe you'll figure it out. If I say we're going to give away money, maybe you'll figure it out. Let me give you another example. Where are the single ladies again? All the way single? Okay, there's a lady right here in the front row. You're all the way single. She says very. Could you please stand quickly? Just stand, please. Because I think most people are going to be confused. Just turn around and wave to everybody. Now, I want you to imagine you are in a relationship and the relationship is going really well. Okay? Just meditate and just imagine. Let's give them a name quickly. Let's just give them a name. What is the name of your ideal partner? Any name. Oh, okay. Okay. Michael. Okay, Michael, you and Michael have been in a relationship for 6 months. By the way, I'm not championing you need to be in a relationship. If you guys are happy and you're single, that's fine, okay? I'm not championing that. I'm just going to give an exercise about system 1 and system 2. That's my goal. You and Michael have been in a relationship for about 6 months. The relationship is going really well. You live 30 minutes apart from each other. You're going to take a week off from work. And you have said to yourself, I need some rest. Now, Michael phones you at 3 o'clock in the morning. And he knows you guys live 30 minutes apart. But he phones you at 3 o'clock in the morning and says, look, I've had some friends over. And we were watching sports, and they've left a lot of dirty dishes. Could you please come over and wash dishes? She says, you said, not a chance. You see, that's why you're single. I'm joking. Let's explore the brain reason Let's explore the brain reason why she wouldn't go. There is a system reason why she didn't go. She does not have a formula that goes me plus 3 in the morning equals washing dishes. There is no formula. So what happens is, if there is no formula that the people around you can connect to that's linked to a story that moves my soul, I may break up with you. I may not sit with you at the table, at lunch, at work, because I don't see where there's a formula connection. I haven't been able to place you. Me plus you equals something interesting to me. I haven't been able to figure out a way to connect, so I'm going to stay in my sameness group. Now watch this closely. If I change the formula, maybe you'll jump up and come running at 3 o'clock in the morning. If Michael phones you and says that, I'm sorry to wake you up, but I've organized spa treatments in Paris, and I want to spoil you because you're so beautiful, and the flight leaves in 3 hours, can you come now? You see? All right, guys, you got to know how these slay queens work. I want to move to the close of this conversation this way. There is the logic dimension, and then there's the gut feel in the unconscious mind. The gut feel in the unconscious mind is highly emotive, and it leverages the limbic system. It leverages the motor and emotional system of the brain. If you guys want me to have a more technical conversation, at the end I'm going to put up my website, and you can go to my website, and I have conversations with neuroscientists from different parts of the world, and we explore the more technical aspect. I want to just break it down and simplify this for the purposes of this conversation. But ultimately, the lower regions of the brain is responsible for movement, emotion. And your gut is a very real dimension that has strategic capacity. It has the ability to help you navigate. So you're dealing with 2 dimensions of your brain capacity to help you navigate. And you can tell stories to move people to trigger their gut. Now, this is important. The moment I told her the story about France and spa treatments, it resonated at a gut level how it would feel. The moment I told the story in a formula, I want to take you to Paris for spa treatments, that story triggered a relationship that moved chemicals in her brain for her to feel it. It's like when you were preparing to come to Sun City. You felt what it was like to get away from your colleagues. You felt what it would be like to be here in this lovely environment next to the pool. You felt it. On the last day, you will also feel what it's like to go back. There's nothing worse than that last day when the holiday is over. Have you ever seen people's faces at the airport on the last day? It's painful because you're now connecting back with the stress. When you're going, you're connecting away. The story is changing. And when that story shifts, it impacts you neurologically. This is critical. But I just want to show you just how powerful your gut is. How many of you think you're a good kisser? Raise your hand. Okay. I can see a few here. Okay. Now, let me tell you why I'm bringing that up. The married people are like, that's how I got here. Your lips have the thinnest layer of skin on the body. Your lips literally have, I'm talking science. It's the thinnest layer of skin on the body. When you kiss someone for the first time, saliva passes through the lip and it connects with the unconscious mind, and you can detect the strength of that person's DNA through a simple kiss. Now what happens is you kiss the person and your gut tells you, stay away from this person, they got weak DNA. This person is junk. But then what happens? You continue on because they look right. My parents, my family's gonna like them. They'll look great if I bring them to the bride. And your logic gets in the way of the gut. Your gut has registered, stay away from this person. We can detect and smell whether or not there's chemistry with people. We can detect through touch because we are wired under our epidermis. We are wired to be able to feel things that go beyond logic. Say beyond logic. Logic is a simple dimension, and I expect every single person in here who's highly intelligent to pursue the highest order of logic, to pursue the highest order of cognitive capacity, to be highly strategic. But then if you go to that extent and then your gut tells you something is not right about this person, you got to trust it. One of the things that is extraordinary about our ability to navigate complexity is that sometimes information passes so fast that your conscious mind doesn't pick it up, but your gut does. Malcolm Gladwell wrote this extraordinary book called Blink. In the blink of a moment, you may not have seen what happens, but the unconscious mind has picked it up. So, ladies in particular, you have up to 30% more capacity to pick up what's happening in your gut than men. This is an extraordinary leadership trait that you should own as a woman. Why? Because whether you call it your creator, God, whatever you call it, you've been wired with this so that you don't allow junk inside of you. Your creator is giving you this capacity so that you can ensure that the next generation is strong and that you're able to make decisions that have higher order discipline. I want to give you 5 brain boosting tips quickly, and then I'm going to sit down. Because all of this requires that you engage with the highest capacity of your brain. The first thing is drink pH level 7, 8 or neutral water. Write these 5 things down quickly. Now, water has an unbelievable impact on you, from hydrating the brain to giving you the ability to be able to make quicker connections so things flow on the tip of your tongue. For some of you, you struggle. There's always something on the tip of your tongue. You can't, it won't come out. That's because your brain is not hydrated enough. This is critical. It has so many brain boosting capacity. The brain, it actually boosts what we call alpha waves. Alpha waves help the brain regions connect faster. It helps you become more creative. This is raw science, guys. It even has a personal benefit to you. For some of you, if you struggle having orgasms, if you drink more still water, it boosts your capacity for orgasms. Now, if you see somebody who looks stressed, just pass them the water. No, I can see it in your eyes. You can see when somebody's stressed out, guys. We can see it. Just pass them the water. Don't judge them. It's stressful out here. Number two. So that's number 1. You want to boost alpha waves by drinking more water. Still water, not sparkling water. Sparkling water has more acid. It's more acidic. So it doesn't have that same brain boosting capacity. It does hydrate, but not at the same level. I can see people here drinking plenty of water. Yes, please. Number 2, connect with nature. There's a study called nature bathing or forest bathing. If you literally spend up to 3 straight days in nature, your cancer-fighting T cells grow by up to 50%. Why? Because nature delights the cells. Nature literally delights the cells. If you know someone in the hospital, try to make sure they have a view that faces nature. They will heal up to 25% faster because nature is signaling to the cells health. Number 3, me time. I know you have kids and you're stressed out, but you've got to invest back in yourself. What happens in the brain is that the brain goes through this called hyperloop mode. When you're trying to find answers and you're in a very strategic space in your life, your brain starts spinning in the prefrontal cortex. It starts spinning out of control. And when you stop, and you literally stop thinking about something, the answers often come because they're in your unconscious mind already. How many of you have experienced that? You stop thinking about something, the answer comes. Exactly. It's because you've moved yourself from the hyperloop mode and took time out for yourself. Number 4. This is critical, guys. For those of you who go to sleep at night staring at your phone or watching TV, you're waking up with up to 5 to 10% less of your own IQ. Just look at the person next to you. If they look like they have less IQ than yesterday, they were probably they were probably on their phone the whole night. Now, this is important because what happens is the unconscious mind thinks it's daytime. And you only go into healing sleep much later. So, what you want to do is up to 1 hour before you sleep. Let's try this for tomorrow morning. Up to 1 hour before you sleep. I want you to go into that part of sleep that cleanses the toxins. Healthy sleep is the type of sleep where the toxicity on your neurons, the information cells, is cleansed. That's what good sleep is. And then finally, I want you to do a relationship audit. There's a term in science called, there's a stress chemical in the brain that if it's dispersed to too much at such a high level, you will be impacted in what we call cortisol contagion. If somebody is highly stressed out around you, you will become more stressed. Now, you may know this, but let me give you the science. So cortisol contagion is the stress chemicals leaps from their body onto you and compromises your immune system. So people around you, friends and colleagues who are highly stressed out can be breaking down your immune system even if they're not targeting you. Wellness is not just about making sure people look good. I don't care about, it helps, but the bottom line is it's not about just looking a particular way. It's about mental fitness. It's about being in a position where you can manage stress better. Your immune system can respond to stress better. Now, as I wrap up, I told you I was going to help you taste better. In 2003, a guy named Armin Muiz decided he wanted to eat someone who was more articulate and more courageous. He was a German guy. And he put out on a Google advert that I want to eat someone who has these attributes: more articulate, more educated. 200 people got back to him and said, I want to be eaten. True story. He narrowed it down to a guy named Bernard Brands. They met over a candlelight and they decided we want to go through with this. Armin Muiz takes out a knife, puts it in him, lays him down and starts cutting off parts of his arm, puts it into a frying pan with olive oil and garlic. I don't know how you like your meat, medium, well done. Then he got out some fine red wine and began to eat him. After he finished his arm, he cut up the rest of him, put it into saran wrap or plastic, and put it into the freezer next to the pizza. Every week, he got out a little bit more, the thigh. After 6 months, he felt more articulate and courageous. Now, guys, I wish I could just eat you up. Or even those of you who are really spiritual. I don't care what your spiritual background is, what you read. All spiritual texts talk about eating higher beings. Even the Bible says, unless you eat of my flesh and drink blood, there are implications if you don't. What happens is our behaviors accumulate into nutrition for the brain. So if you are in an environment where the values are discipline, integrity, being on time, and you run late, then what happens is those values, those negative values, trigger stress chemicals in the body, and they are digested as rotten. If you are in an environment where the people around you are working at a high level of excellence, they're on time and they're highly disciplined, they are serving your brain like a 5-course meal. They are serving you delectable meals, and your brain is receiving these meals with power, and it's healthy fuel for you. But if somebody is negative and they're late and they're chaotic, they are giving you food poisoning for the brain. They are literally making you sick. Now, when you go back to work, I want you to ask people, what can I expect at the table? What are you serving me? Because this is what I'm going to serve you. I am prepared to serve you delightful meals of excellence. And you do that through your daily patterns, which produce the story, which produces the power of your personal brand. All I really wanted to do is just come here and let you eat from a good talk. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
I just thought you'd need some water.
Thank you very much.
Keep that. My glasses are full. I got my wife here and she's looking at me, water. I don't do sparkling, but anyway. So thanks for advising today. I think that was very insightful. There's 2 people I'd like to take in my pocket. That's Marco, which was our first speaker. And then I would like to put you in my pocket just for my family life.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay, guys, quick, we got to rush. Just an announcement quickly. We will not be doing the plenary discussion with Dr. Richard Levin. There's been some issues and he won't make it. It doesn't mean we're winning time because we're already 50 odd minutes sort of behind. But are you enjoying yourselves? Because none of you have run for lunch. You have got great food here on stage. I mean, a 5-course meal has never tasted this good. So quick, just 2 or 3 questions quickly, and then we're going to call up Dr. Brian. So I think schools should have mental health classes that you can get credit for, where you learn what depression, anxiety, and other mental health illnesses are. That's the statement, which I think I just run that to you first. And then there's lots of statements, hardly any questions. Wow. How would knowing your colleagues' stories impact on productivity? Good question.
So when you know your colleagues really well and you understand their stories and their background, when you reduce the stress levels that are created by the fact that you don't feel familiar with them, what ends up happening is the positive chemicals such as vasopressin and oxytocin help the bonding effect, which increases trust, which increases the feeling that I can work with you without the stress. So ultimately, you end up flowing in conversation and you increase the capacity to move efficiently.
This is an interesting question from Potlakiso. Mr. Webster, don't you think that gut feeling may create biasness?
So, as I said, part of what is required is that you go through the logic exercise, pursue all the facts, and then you marry that with the gut. So, yes, there are times when a lot of stereotypes are actually true, but what you really want to do is to pursue at a very high level, what is the value of this human being, and how can we collaborate, and then trust your gut.
That's good. And then, here's one here from Don Kochetsitse. What is nature in your context?
Nature. If I can walk in a garden, if I can be outside in the sun, anything that's natural, if I can lie in a bath with water that's natural, these are all natural elements that can boost the brain.
So build gardens in our office spaces.
Absolutely.
How do you get to know the stories of your colleagues when they are not willing to share?
Yeah, well, fortunately, there's Google. You can find out a little bit more about people's backgrounds. LinkedIn. People are fairly transparent, or find out people around them who know them better and say, hey, I'd like to get to know your friend a little bit better. We're working together on a project. I'd like to know a little bit more.
Matsi says, these brain-boosting tips make so much sense. What an amazing presentation, Timothy. Timothy, thank you. And thank you for listening.
Thank you
once again. We've got a little gift here for you. And for, where is our little fitness lady? So in there is 5 liters of water and a water cooler. Keeping it cold. Thank you, guys. Just before we go, there's something very important that's going to be announced now. Very, very important. Remember, we go straight to breakaway after lunch. A reminder, pen, page 25 again. Grab your pens quickly for those who have not heard the change of rooms. Session 9 will be in Warriors 1. Session 9. Session 10 will be in Warriors 2. Session 11 will be in Sears 1 right behind us. And session 12 will be in Sears 2. I'm going to call up Dr. Brown quickly just to do a quick app download for the guys quickly. And then quickly, there is an IPM survey. This is very important, guys, as well. Get that link down below. Please complete the survey. And then we'll put it back up again. It's very important we get that survey going. All yours, sir.
Thank you very much. So around about 3-4 months ago, Dr. Gule and I started talking about this app. And the original idea was that a couple of lucky winners should win the app, to download the app, and to have availability to its content. That is now all changed. So let me tell you what you're entitled to. While you're in this venue and while you're part of the IPM convention, you can download the app entirely for free. So while you're in this venue, download the app entirely for free. So that has changed, and we thought from originally a prize that every single person here can download the app for free. I'm going to show you just a couple of features of the app, and then for the last 5 minutes, the developer of the app, Johan Liversage, is going to talk to you. He will be available at the stand downstairs, so if there's any queries, you can ask him. And the second thing that's important is there's various content in the app. And we've budgeted to get together with Dr. Gule 250,000 rands worth of content to be distributed to all of you. So that's the budget. So thank you to Dr. Gule. You have to thank him. Because from what originally was just a prize, turned out, well, let's give it for free to everybody sitting here. And you have that for the next 12 months. So we'll get your email addresses, etc. And thank you. We'll get your email addresses and we'll download the content. So very briefly, the app goes like this. It's on your Google store. Johanna's going to talk about it. And first of all, it deals with the content. So every year we report around about 22,000 CCMA awards or rulings. Every year we report round about 8,000 bargaining council awards or rulings. Every year we report round about 500 judgments of the various courts that affect you as practitioners. So that's in the app. And then obviously there's also publications in the app, and there's also seminar workbooks in the app. There's the CCMA rules. Oops. Can you put it back for me? So the CCMA rules, thank you. There's the CCMA rules workbook. So that's also on the app. It deals with the latest application of the CCMA rules. 5 lucky winners downstairs at lunchtime will also get a signed copy by me of each one of those books. You may or may not know that the CCMA's budget this year has been extended by another 59 million rand. All HRIR disputes within the next 5 to 6 years, when there's a legal basis for it, will be dealt with by the CCMA, no longer the Labour Court, no longer the Labour Appeal Court. They'll only do appeals and reviews. And lastly but not least, obviously, you'll be able to get onto the app, and there's a chat room, and you'll have access to the chat room. If you are from any organization that wants to use the infrastructure of the app to put your own content in, please speak to Johan. So if you're from ESCOM, if you're from a government department, and you into a whole bunch of information that you want to distribute to all your employees, members, we can customize it for you, and please speak to Johan. So my great privilege to introduce you to Liversage. Johan is going to talk very briefly about the app and show you how to go into the app. He will be downstairs at our stall, so if you've got any difficulty with the app, you get it from your Google store. If you've got an Apple device, currently not available, and that will shortly be available. So this is Androids. In the African market, your Android phones, around about 88% of the market. Okay, so here's Johan.
Hello, I'm Johan, and sorry to keep you away from your lunch. That app, while they're connecting, I'll just, the whole point was to have it on screen for you, and so there. Just move it. My apologies. Just move it to the screen, yeah. Okay. So what you do is that. Okay. That one we move across. This is full screen. What to do is just take out this and drag this one across. Just move it across. I don't know whether it's a burden to be technical or to solve your own problems at times. So the app that is about the books. There's about 475,000 documents. The 475,000 documents, Brian broke it down for you on, and then at the same time, there's you can search all the content. So imagine 475,000 documents, you can search any word in all of them. And that makes it, that's one of the powerful features that you have. Apart from that, you download the books. There's these library, certain books that you have, it's already then available for you on your phone, and you remove it for space purposes. You'll never lose it. It's always available for you. It's in the cloud. Then there's the store, slightly slower, but then there's the store where you can buy the books or download them and so forth. And there's the search. So I'll just drop in and retirement. I don't know why I think of retirement. Then it searches the books, and you will have that too, and then can download it, etc. We have free books available. We can go on to discrimination. You'll see that the screen, is it visible enough? And then there's the read now, where you can actually look at a book, and it's a reader of its own reader, and where you can search words and have your normal bookmarks and all the other things that you would like and expect in a reader. Okay, so, and you can do a snapshot of the book and share it with someone else, the page or the paragraph or whatever the case might be, so cause interaction. What we've added as well was we've added in a chat component where you can communicate. The whole idea was to actually create a forum where we can communicate with the people out there, can buy the app, and they have a problem. They put it on this forum, and they will, other people on this group then can respond, and then there's the books available and all the other stuff as well. Okay, so and apart from that, there's the books, and that I've downloaded on this now for yourself. And then there's a subscription where you can subscribe and go and purchase and get the subscriptions. In this case, I've downloaded all of them and subscribed to all, so I don't have any. But in your case, you will have all the subscriptions available. And that's about it. Okay. I don't want to burden you with all this stuff, but it was I think something that evolved and that we will definitely see how to progress in the future.
Okay, I think we need to wrap up. I'm going to be down in the lunch hall to do some more prize giving to you guys down there. So I'll see you, enjoy your lunch, and we'll see each other in the breakaway rooms at around 2:15. Thank you.